Each one of these Florida Panthers players has something in common with the other, and it's not being talked about at all. Some of you have been commenting a little bit on this, and I haven't really given you any sort of information on whether or not you are right, you might be wrong, or does it not even really matter? And that has to do with the fact, is there a strategic advantage to having a right shot versus a left shot in the NHL? Guys, thank you so much for joining me on this episode of Panthers Digest. I'm your host, Greg Andrews. Hit that subscribe button down below so you can stay up to date with anything and everything that has to do with your back-to-back Stanley Cup champion, Florida Panthers. Now, I know this topic is a broader niche. It is not solely about the Florida Panthers, but it is something some of you have commented on, saying that if Evan Rodriguez ends up getting traded, they need to replace him with a right shot player because there's so few of them in the NHL. And yes, there are very few. It's a 2-to-1 ratio left to right shot players. There's about 63, 64% players in the NHL are lefties and not righties. So I'm going to get to the bottom of this. You can formulate your own opinion and ideas about whether or not you do think being a right shot player in the NHL is advantageous versus left, or you can go the opposite direction, or just say, you know what, it doesn't even really matter. I'll give you my opinion. Again, guys, if I'm wrong in any of my analysis, please, I do apologize. You can comment below. Please be nice. Don't rip my head off. I did a ton of research on this, so I'm going to try to make this kind of quick, because I've got another episode I'd like to do later talking about more of the unrestricted free agents that the Panthers have picked up, possible moves that they will make moving forward to free up some of the cap room that they have now exceeded and gone over. So anyways, guys, again, this show, is it really matter? Is it a big thing to be a right shot player in the NHL? Just because they're in the smaller, that 30%, 27% of players are, doesn't mean really anything, or does it? These are the Maurice Rocket Richard Trophy winners from the last 20 years. Now, I'm about to share with you guys that there were 22 winners over those last 20 seasons, because 2 years in 2010 and 2020, there was a tie for top goal scorer. So, right shot players, 14 times they led the league in goal scoring. 8 led the league that were lefties. In 2010, it was a tie between Steven Stamkos and Sidney Crosby. In 2020, it was Aleksander Ovechkin and David Pastrnak. So righties kind of rule there. But I'm going to get to the bottom of where could there be some sort of advantage being a right shot. But there are some disadvantages as well. So as we're looking at this now, these are Hall of Famers who were right shot. Pavel Datsyuk, Shea Weber, Duncan Keith, Gordie Howe. I mean, some of the best out there. Mario Lemieux, Steve Yzerman, Teemu Selanne, Dave Andreychuk. Some of the best to play the game. But look at the lefties. Joe Sakic, Bobby Hull, Wayne Gretzky, Mark Messier, Luc Robitaille, Jaromir Jagr, Mark Recchi. So you could say it goes either way. These are all big-time names that we all know. But the thing we have to think of now is, how about in today's game? Who are the players that are leading the league with goal scoring and assists? Well, your top goal scorer this year was Leon Draisaitl. He was a lefty, but 7 of the top 10 goal scorers were righties. Now let's take a look at the assists, because this one might shock you a little bit, or maybe not. Left-handed player, or I would say left shot player, was your assist leader, Nikita Kucherov. Well, tied it with a righty and Nathan MacKinnon. So, can you say it's almost an even push, even though 6 out of these 10 top assist men in the league were right-handed? And by the way, the 10th top goal scorer in the league was Sam Reinhart. If you saw on the last graphic, he's at the bottom there, and he is a right shot player. So let's take a look at the Panthers in general. 3 players on the team that are in their top 10 for scoring and assists are righties. I'm not going to get into the defenders or guys that have been traded because they don't show up on the top 10 list. So goal scorers. Sam Reinhart led the team with 39, and then you have Evan Rodriguez right there at number 7, and number 8, Mackie Samoskevich. Does it make a difference? I would say possibly, yes. The contributions they make to the team are not going unnoticed, because if you take away Evan Rodriguez, who knows what would happen if you brought in a left shot player? Would those goals for go down? But it depends on the player. It depends on the skill level. So here are the assists. Again, it's almost identical to the goal scoring. Sam Reinhart is second behind Aleksander Barkov, who's a lefty. Then Evan Rodriguez and Mackie Samoskevich round out 9 and 10 for the assist leaders. But one thing I want you guys to understand, Connor McDavid's a lefty. So it's about talent that makes this. Every single player has a different skill level. One of the things that I've read from a lot of the coaches that are out there and a lot of past players, retired guys, Hall of Famers, they say the one thing that has been proven in the NHL that is the ability for the players to adapt to the game, to grow their skills. Lefties do a better job of it. That's why there's a 2-to-1 ratio of lefties to righties in the NHL. And when these guys learn to play the game at a young age, if they're Canadian or they're European, it is about cultural influence. Because in Canada, the way they were taught to do things is your dominant hand, left or right, does not go at the bottom of the stick, it goes at the top. Because you need to be able to control your stick and have the leverage, be able to control the puck, be able to dig in the corners and work at that puck using your strong arm, because it is your dominant, stronger arm. If you're using your weaker arm, you're probably not going to be able to do a lot with that and control the same way as somebody else who's using their dominant hand at the top of the stick. The other reason for that is because when guys are doing a slap shot, when coaches at youth levels teach the technique to do a slap shot, is you wind it by taking the stick all the way back, yank at the top of the stick, back with the top hand, that strong hand, like operating a lever, and then you push the rest of the stick forward with the bottom hand. Your hip turn and your hands, that top hand and your hip turn, that generates the power. And it's very similar with a wrist shot. You have to yank the top hand back while snapping the wrists, and you turn the bottom hand over. That's what generates the power. That's what generates the accuracy. That is why you put your dominant hand at the top of the stick. But in the United States, we learn to throw a ball with our right. So sometimes the players put their right hand at the bottom of the stick. Yes, you can generate more power, but there's not as much accuracy. To me, I'd rather go the opposite direction, even though I played with my right hand at the bottom of the stick, and coaches never told me to go other way because they just, I guess it was what it was. Maybe I didn't have the greatest coach, but to me, I enjoyed it. I felt like I had good leverage. I can control the puck and everything, but this is the NHL. It's totally different, obviously, than playing pee-wee hockey at this really young level. So when we're looking at more and more of the big-time players, like I said, these guys that are Hall of Famers, the top 6 of the top 10 scorers of all time were righties. 15 of the top 25 were righties as well. So is there a true competitive advantage to being a right shot? Maybe, maybe not. There are other factors that play into the success of if you're right shot or left shot. Like I just said, Connor McDavid is a left shot guy. Sam Reinhart is a right shot guy. Alexander Ovechkin is a right shot guy who now has most goals ever in a career. He's outdone the great one who was a lefty. So talent, it's not driven by if you're right-handed or left. The talent does speak for itself. Are there some advantages? Well, it depends on where you are on the ice. If you're right-handed, you want to shoot from the left circle. If you're left-handed, you want to shoot from the right circle. You want to improve your angle. Improving your angle means get to the center ice. Get to the open ice in the middle. Don't close off your angle and make it shorter and move towards the goal line and close it off. You know, it's a game of geometry, guys. It's geometry, and I hate talking about that. But that's how it is. So there are other factors like, okay, is the goaltender right glove or left glove? Their weaker side is generally their stick side with the blocker. That's why we saw a lot of goals. A vast majority, I would say, of like the harder things to stop for a goaltender will be on that blocker side because that is the weaker side for them. They can flash the glove and stop a higher percentage of the shots coming to their glove side compared to that opposite blocker stick side. We saw Bobrovsky give up some that went right under his arm on that stick side or over his shoulder. It was the same thing for Skinner. It was the same thing for some of the best goalies in the league in this past playoffs in 2024, 2025. So there are factors that play into, okay, well, what will make this guy have better opportunity and better stat lines and lead goal scoring or lead the assists, all of this stuff. There are several factors. To me, do I think that being a righty has some competitive advantage? Yes, I do, because there are far fewer of them in the league. Does it mean because you're right-handed, you're going to be a better player than everybody else? Not necessarily. Again, talent speaks volumes above if your blade is curved right or left. Again, you could look at the bottom goal scorer in the league versus the top. Big difference in terms of their skill level. And that's one thing coaches said. Lefties, for some reason, have the ability to move forward and develop their game at a higher level than righties do. They do it faster, they do it more effectively. And that's why there are more lefties in the NHL than there are righties. And yes, it is a cultural thing, like I said before. But anyways, guys, that is my whole shtick for today. I just wanted to throw that for you guys to listen to. You can make your own opinion on whether or not you think a right-handed shot or right shot is better than a left shot, or is there not really a difference, or does it just come down to pure skill for the player, and that is what makes it. Honestly, there are not a lot of ambidextrous players. I don't even want to go there, but still, I think that holds a bigger advantage than right or left, because guess what? Guess what? The sticks used to be flat. There was no curve until the 60s when they started doing that. And yeah, imagine if there was a player that played with a flat blade and could go right or left. I'm sure there's one out there. If you guys can find one, please put it in the comments. I would love to know who it is. But anyways, guys, thank you for joining me on this episode of Panthers Digest. Again, I'm your host, Greg Andrews. Another video will be coming out to kind of go over some of the unrestricted free agents that we have picked up. What are the rumors going out there on how we are going to get back under the salary cap, as well as is there any other wiggle room for maybe bringing in someone else? Right now, it's really tight. They're over the cap limit by almost $3 million. So something needs to give eventually, but what will it be? I've already said it in one of my past videos. Will it be LTIR for Tkachuk? Who knows? Are they going to wait and see what happens with that? Are they going to try to trade Evan Rodriguez, Hot Rod, or are they going to try to keep him because he is a valuable asset to this team? I don't want to see him go. I know you guys don't either. But anyways, thank you so much for joining me. Please comment below. Be gentle if I did make some mistakes. You can correct me if I was wrong. I do appreciate it. But I hope you enjoyed this episode, guys, and I'll have another one for you either later today or tomorrow morning. Until then, go Cats.